Hi, this is Sandra Schlafer with King and Companies, and I just wanted to go over the Minnesota paid leave employee notification that we emailed out to you yesterday, and then sent a second email with the updated Excel spreadsheet, kind of like a calculator. So I am going to share my screen and kind of go over some little tips completing that form. Okay, so we're talking about the employee notice. It would look like this. You just have to concentrate on pages 3 and 5. And what you'll need to have beside you is your quote that we had sent out with the insurance company quote, and then also the document, the employee communication letter or template, and the Excel calculator. It was that second email we sent. Because you will need to include some percentages on page 3, of which you will be obtaining from that Excel spreadsheet calculator that we sent on over. And then and that's page 3. And then on page 5, it will be your employer information. And then there'll also be an acknowledgement that you'll need to have some type of record that the employee received the document. So your quote would have looked something like this. It would have had a percentage here, and then we sent that out a while ago. And you'll be using whatever this number is, if it's 0.79 or 0.55, or excuse me, 0.59 or 0.66 or whatever your number is on the Excel spreadsheet document. And just to remind you that small employers, there is some relief for you. So if you employ fewer than 30 employees with their average employee wages less than 150% of the state average weekly wage, then you get a reduction. So you can still charge your employees the 0.44%. And then you would pay the remainder. If you are a large employer, based on this over 30 definition, then you cannot charge an employee more than 50% of whatever your rate was on your quote. If you're not sure if you're a small or large employer, you can always contact your CPA. And just to remind you, we are not a CPA firm, nor are we a deal with taxes or an attorney, and nor is Shelter Point. So that is a disclaimer that we do need to state. So this is just a sample rate calculator. So this sample rate would have been what was ever on your quote as your rate. And then whatever you're going to charge your employee, that would be this rate. And then then the remainder, the balance would be what you as the employer would pay. Now, this obviously is a small employer because they're attributing not 50% of this 0.59. They are only, as an employer, having to do 0.15. So this 0.59%, or whatever your number is, Shelter Point's actuarial team has determined that 70% of this rate is to fund the medical portion of the Minnesota family leave, and 30% is to fund the family leave component. So how this works is 70% of this 0.59 is 0.413. So these calculations should already be in the second email that we had sent you out. So you should only have to enter two of these, the first two, what your rate is on your quote, and then what you're going to charge your employee. So the 70%. So 70% of this number would be this, and 70% of the employer rate here would automatically be this. And then the 30% of this rate goes to the family piece. So then the full rate is 0.177 and the employee rate is 0.132, and then what the employer would be paying. And then this is just a validation just to make sure that these calculations were correct based upon what we plugged in here. So this you're going to get from your quote. Okay, if you're a small employer, you can charge up to 0.44% for the employees. If you're a large employer, then it's 50% of whatever this rate is. So I'm going to go back and forth a little bit. I'm going to go back and forth. And so the total medical leave premium, when they say this is actually a percentage. So the total premium for this, or the percentage, is 0.413. And that's what's the number you would be putting here. This is the employer section, is how much the employer is contributing, and this is for the medical piece, and that would hold true. The employer is 0.105 or whatever your number is, because this is based upon this quote rate of 0.59. So you would be entering it there, and this employee portion is what comes out of that employee's paycheck, and you would be listing that, whoopsie, you'd be listing that right here. And then you have the family leave component, and that would be this total. And then for the employer rate, it would be this, and the employee rate would be this. And then you would be completing that in these sections here. And then when you add up what the employee's paying here from deducted from your wages and this equals this grand number, which will be the same as the total employee rate, 0.44 in this case. Now, so that's where you're going to get these calculations. And then just to remind, this is not this employer name is just there. It is not an editable field. So you just can leave that as is. And then page 5 is the employer section where you're going to put your employer name and the mailing address and your tax ID number. And however you're going to collect acknowledgments. So if you just have like maybe a second page or a second copy of this, if you needed to do that, where they check here, they put their name, date, and sign. Just remember this has to be all given to employees by December 1st. And you will have to record it in case you're ever audited that you have this. And this would also go forward for new hires as well. So who do you give the form to? So you're going to give it to all your employees. However, you will have some situations, maybe of remote employees, and you're not sure if they're really eligible for this or not. You should be contacting the state directly at the 651-556-7777 number. Or looks like the Minnesota Paid Leave Law has a new website, so you can go to that. And there's a whole bunch of frequently asked questions on there, or just give them a call to help you with that, as they will need to provide the guidance if an employee is considered eligible or not. So I'm going to stop sharing. So I'm Sandra Schlafer with King and Companies, and we're helping you with your Minnesota paid leave. So have a great day. If you have questions, reach out to us. Otherwise, contact the state. Okay, thanks. Bye.